Welcome to Have You Read It, the channel where we bring books to life, one summary at a time. Today we're diving into Feel-Good Productivity by Ali Abdaal, a practical guide to achieving more by focusing on what makes you feel good. It's not about grinding harder, it's about working smarter and happier. Abdaal starts by sharing his own experience as a junior doctor, overwhelmed by work and constantly feeling like he was drowning. He was working harder and harder, but achieving less and less. This led him to question the traditional productivity advice he'd absorbed, which often equated success with suffering. He realized that there's a different path, one that prioritizes well-being and uses that to fuel productivity. He calls it feel-good productivity. The core idea is that positive emotions aren't just a nice-to-have, they actually boost our cognitive abilities. A key study mentioned is the candle problem, where participants given a small gift before attempting a creative puzzle performed significantly better. This, Abdaal explains, is because positive emotions broaden our awareness and build our cognitive resources, like creativity and problem-solving, according to the broaden and build theory of positive emotions. Positive emotions also help by boosting energy through the release of feel-good hormones like endorphins, serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin. Furthermore, positive emotions can reduce stress by undoing the physiological effects of negative emotions, like the release of stress hormones, adrenaline, and cortisol. This leads to a fascinating conclusion. Feeling good leads to success, not the other way around, as supported by a 2005 meta-analysis of over 275,000 individuals. Abdaal's method is structured around 3 parts: energize, unblock, and sustain. Let's start with energize. The first energizer is play. Abdaal recounts Richard Feynman's story, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist who rediscovered his passion for physics by approaching it playfully, like a game. He uses this, and other Nobel laureates' examples, to emphasize the importance of play in boosting productivity. He also cites research showing that play can restore energy in fatigued individuals. To harness play, Abdaal suggests several experiments. The first is to choose your character, drawing on Stuart Brown's 8 play personalities: the collector, competitor, explorer, creator, storyteller, joker, director, and kinesthete. Identifying with one or more of these can help you approach tasks more playfully. The second experiment is to embrace curiosity by pursuing side quests, exploring new approaches or ideas that might not be directly related to your main task, but could spark unexpected insights. Citing Walter Isaacson and a study on curiosity and dopamine release, he highlights that curiosity doesn't just make life more enjoyable, but also boosts focus and memory. Another way to inject playfulness is to find the fun, inspired by Mary Poppins, a spoonful of sugar. The magic post-it note experiment involves asking, "What would this look like if it were fun?" before starting a task. And to enjoy the process rather than solely focusing on the outcome, as illustrated by Olympic sport climbers who seem to genuinely enjoy the challenge itself, regardless of the result. According to Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, this focus on process is key to experiencing flow. Finally, to make play flourish, Abdaal emphasizes lowering the stakes. He uses a coding experiment to demonstrate how even arbitrary penalties for failure can significantly reduce the number of attempts people make. He suggests reframing failures as valuable data points in an experiment, rather than as signs of inadequacy. This leads to the concept of being sincere rather than serious, borrowing from Alan Watts. The sincere person engages fully in a task without getting overly attached to the outcome. Moving on to the second energizer, power. Abdaal uses the story of Netflix's rise and their emphasis on employee empowerment to illustrate how a sense of personal power can fuel productivity. He defines power not as control over others, but as a sense of autonomy and control over one's own work and life. He then discusses the science of power, starting with confidence. He cites studies demonstrating that even artificially boosting someone's confidence can improve their performance and enjoyment of tasks like exercising. Albert Bandura's concept of self-efficacy, our belief in our ability to achieve objectives, is key here. To build confidence, Abdaal suggests flipping the confidence switch, behaving as if you're confident even if you're not. Another experiment involves leveraging the social model method, where observing others succeed at similar tasks can boost our own confidence, drawing on Bandura's vicarious mastery experience. Consuming content from role models is one way to achieve this. Next is leveling up your skills through enactive mastery experiences, learning by doing. He introduces the concept of shoshin, or beginner's mind, a Zen Buddhist principle emphasizing approaching tasks with the openness and curiosity of a beginner. This allows for continuous learning and adaptation. Another strategy involves the protege effect, where teaching others reinforces our own understanding and mastery of a subject, as shown in studies where students who taught material to a virtual student performed better on tests. Finally, taking ownership of your work, as described by self-determination theory, significantly boosts intrinsic motivation. Abdaal tells the story of a Reddit user who automated his own job to illustrate how taking ownership of the process, even when the outcome is fixed, can boost motivation. He also encourages shifting your mindset from have to choose to, taking ownership of even mundane tasks by reframing them as choices you're making, referencing Viktor Frankl's concept of choosing one's attitude. The third energizer is people. Abdaal introduces the concept of relational energy, how interactions with others impact our mood and resources, citing research showing consistent agreement within organizations about who energizes and who drains. He also discusses Brian Eno's concept of scenius, highlighting the importance of being part of a supportive and inspiring community. The first step to harnessing the power of people is to find your scene. Abdaal describes a study where participants who believed they were working together on a puzzle performed better than those who thought they were working individually, demonstrating the power of a comrade mindset. He suggests thinking of colleagues and peers as teammates, even when not directly collaborating, to foster a sense of shared purpose. Another experiment involves finding synchronicity, where working in sync with others, even on different tasks, can enhance teamwork and motivation, as shown in a study where participants who tapped their fingers to the same beat were more likely to cooperate. Next, Abdaal discusses the helper's high, the positive emotional and physiological effects of helping others, referencing Alan Lux's research. He suggests performing random acts of kindness and counterintuitively asking for help, drawing on the Benjamin Franklin effect, where asking someone for a favor can actually make them like you more. He emphasizes framing help requests positively and avoiding transactional language. Finally, Abdaal advocates for over-communication, emphasizing that when you think you've communicated enough, you probably haven't. This involves actively sharing both good news and bad news, being radically candid. He offers practical tips for delivering candid feedback, focusing on objective observations, highlighting tangible results, and offering solutions. Now let's move on to the second part of the book, Unblock. Abdaal argues that procrastination isn't about lack of motivation or discipline, but rather about being blocked by negative emotions, uncertainty, fear, and inertia. The first blocker is uncertainty. Abdaal uses the analogy of driving in fog to describe the feeling of uncertainty paralysis, citing research on the intolerance of uncertainty inventory. He points out that uncertainty can lead to overestimation of stakes, hypervigilance to threats, and avoidance behavior, all fueling procrastination. To overcome uncertainty, he suggests seeking clarity by asking why. He introduces the concept of commander's intent from the U.S. Army Field Manual, which emphasizes clarifying the purpose of an operation before focusing on the how. He suggests applying this to personal projects by asking, "What is the purpose behind this?" before starting. He also adapts Sakichi Toyoda's 5 Whys method to determine whether a task is worth pursuing at all, by repeatedly asking why until you reach your ultimate purpose. Next, ask what, turning your purpose into a plan with nice goals. Near-term, input-based, controllable, and energizing. He contrasts these with traditional SMART goals, arguing that outcome-focused goals can sometimes be detrimental to motivation. He also suggests using the crystal ball method or pre-mortem to anticipate potential obstacles and plan accordingly. Finally, ask when by using implementation intentions, if-then statements that link desired actions to specific triggers, like, when I walk into the kitchen, I will eat an apple. This, he explains, leverages research by Peter Gollwitzer, showing the effectiveness of these prompts in changing behavior. He also advocates for time blocking, scheduling even non-work activities into your calendar to ensure they actually happen. The second blocker is fear. Abdaal uses the example of Alex Honnold, the free solo climber with an underactive amygdala, the brain's threat detector, to illustrate how fear can paralyze us. He explains that the amygdala hijack can cause us to avoid challenges even when there's no real threat. The first step to overcoming fear is to know your fear. He suggests using the emotion label technique from effective labeling research, putting your feelings into words to increase self-awareness and reduce rumination. He also introduces the identity label concept from labeling theory, where the labels we give ourselves can become self-fulfilling prophecies. He encourages replacing negative labels like procrastinator with more positive ones like lifelong learner. Next, reduce your fear by gaining perspective. He suggests the 10-10-10 rule, asking whether something will matter in 10 minutes, 10 weeks, and 10 years to reduce catastrophizing. He also introduces the confidence equation. Self-confidence equals perception of ability minus perception of standards, and suggests that we often overestimate the required level of confidence to start a task. Finally, to overcome your fear, he suggests the spotlight effect, reminding yourself that others are less focused on you than you think. And for high-stakes situations, he introduces the Batman effect, where adopting an alter ego can boost confidence and reduce fear of failure. The third blocker is inertia. Abdaal explains that Newton's first law of motion applies to productivity as well. Objects at rest stay at rest. To overcome inertia, he first suggests reducing friction. He uses a study on shopping trolleys with dedicated sections for vegetables to demonstrate how environmental tweaks can influence behavior. This involves engineering our environment to make desired actions the default choice, reducing friction in our physical environment and in our emotional landscape with the 5-minute rule. Next, take action. Drawing on Matt Mokari's bias to action and Tim Feichel's focus on defining the next action step, he encourages breaking down large tasks into smaller, immediately actionable steps. He also highlights Brandon Sanderson's practice of tracking his daily word count to illustrate the motivating power of progress tracking. Finally, support yourself with accountability buddies and self-forgiveness. Accountability buddies leverage social obligation to overcome inertia, and self-forgiveness, as shown in Michael Wohl's research, helps break the cycle of procrastination and shame. Abdaal encourages finding the win by celebrating small victories, however unrelated to the task at hand. Let's move to the final part, sustain, which focuses on avoiding burnout. He introduces 3 types of burnout: overexertion, depletion, and misalignment. Overexertion burnout comes from taking on too much. Abdaal uses the example of LeBron James, who strategically conserves energy on the court, to illustrate the importance of doing less. He quotes Steve Jobs' emphasis on saying no to good ideas to focus on the great ones. To do less, he suggests the energy investment portfolio, listing your dreams and active investments to prioritize energy allocation. He also introduces Derek Siver's hell yeah or no rule for evaluating new commitments, and Juliet Funt's 6-week trap, avoiding overcommitting your future self. Furthermore, he suggests using the concept of opportunity costs to make it clearer what you're saying no to when you say yes to something else. He then tackles distraction, using research that shows a U-shaped relationship between productivity and multitasking. Too little or too much switching between tasks hurts performance. To resist distractions, he suggests adding friction, making it harder to access tempting distractions, and correcting course when you do get distracted. Finally, he emphasizes the importance of taking breaks. He shares an anecdote about being encouraged to take a lunch break by a senior doctor, even amidst a chaotic emergency department, referencing the science of self-regulation. He suggests scheduling breaks, embracing energizing distractions, unplanned positive interruptions, and the RETOF principle, intentionally writing off a day to fully recharge. Depletion burnout arises from inadequate rest. The solution is to recharge creatively, naturally, and mindlessly. Creative recharging involves calm activities that foster competence, autonomy, liberty, and mellowness. Abdaal highlights hobbies and creative projects as ways to achieve this, emphasizing the importance of keeping hobbies separate from work and enjoying the process itself. He also highlights the benefits of building a community around your creative pursuits to enhance motivation and enjoyment. Natural recharging focuses on the restorative power of nature. Citing Roger Ulrich's research on hospital patients with views of nature, he emphasizes that even brief exposure to nature can reduce stress and improve focus. He suggests bringing nature into your home, even with a photo, and taking walks in nature, highlighting a study showing that walking in nature while alone is particularly revitalizing. Finally, mindless recharging involves activities that require minimal effort, like letting your mind wander. He discusses the shower principle and the role of the brain's default mode network in generating creative insights during downtime. He suggests scheduling nothingness and embracing mind wandering during mundane tasks. He also introduces the write-off principle, intentionally writing off a day to fully disengage and recharge. Misalignment. Burnout comes from pursuing goals that don't align with your values. The solution? Alignment with your long-term, medium-term, and short-term horizons. For the long term, Abdaal cites research showing how reminders of mortality can shift people's focus toward intrinsic goals. He suggests using the eulogy method, reflecting on what you'd want people to say at your funeral to clarify your values. For the medium term, he suggests using values affirmation interventions, citing research showing how affirming personal values can improve performance, particularly in situations where self-confidence is low. He introduces the Wheel of Life exercise to identify areas of alignment and misalignment in different life domains, and the 12-month celebration to set goals aligned with your values. For the short term, he suggests the 3 alignment quests, choosing 3 daily actions that align with your 12-month celebration goals. He also advocates for alignment experiments, treating life decisions as experiments to test which actions bring you closer to alignment and fulfillment. The main takeaway from feel-good productivity is that true productivity isn't about forcing yourself to do more, it's about aligning your actions with what makes you feel good. By prioritizing play, power, and people, you can energize yourself. By overcoming uncertainty, fear, and inertia, you can unblock yourself. And by conserving your energy, recharging effectively, and aligning your actions with your values, you can sustain yourself in the long run. It's about becoming a productivity scientist, experimenting with different approaches to discover what works best for you. Here are some easy-to-remember heuristics from the book. Energize, play, power, people. Unblock, seek clarity, what, when, find courage, get started. Sustain, conserve, recharge, align. Nice goals, near-term, input-based, controllable, energizing. Calm activities, Competence, autonomy, liberty, mellowness. 10, 10, 10. Rule. Will this matter in 10 minutes, 10 weeks, 10 years? Hell yeah or no. If a new commitment isn't a hell yeah, it's a no. Thanks for watching. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you never miss our next book dive.